Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates the gas to be hydrogen and moving toward the Earth with enormous velocity. Professor Pearson of the observatory at Princeton confirms Farrell's observation and describes the phenomenon as, quote, like a jet of blue flame shot from a gun, unquote. We now return you to the music of Ramon Raquello, playing for you in the Meridian Room of the Park Plaza Hotel, situated in downtown New York.
Hi, StewHeads. It's me again, Leah.
And I'm Phil.
And I'm Steve. Let us be the first to wish you Happy April Fool's Day.
In true April Fool's fashion, we are presenting you with stories of some of the best pranks and hoaxes that have ever been perpetrated by knuckleheads of all kinds.
Oh, and I've known some knuckleheads.
I resemble that.
If you have an appetite for the strange and bizarre, then pull up a chair and grab a spoon for another intriguing serving of Remnant Stew. Remnant Stew is gluten-free, organic, made from all natural, free-range ingredients, and guaranteed to provide the recommended daily serving of curiosity.
Well, let's take a look at our calendar. Of course, we know that this Thursday, April 1st, is April Fool's Day. We'll be talking about that a good bit more. We have some other important holidays, though, coming up. April 2nd, of course, is Good Friday. April 4th is Easter, and this year it also coincides with the end of Passover. April 5th, though, is celebrated as National Deep Dish Pizza Day.
Hey,
Yeah.
That's my kind of day.
That's a good day for sure. The deep dish pizza, it's believed to be one of the most popular pizza types in the United States. Ike Sewell, founder of Uno's Pizzeria, invented the deep dish pizza in 1943 in Chicago. I guess that's why it now is sometimes called Chicago-style pizza. And the observance is annually on April the 5th. Oh, yes, and let's not forget April the 9th is National Unicorn Day.
Right.
The mythological animal is represented by the image of a horse with a horn on its forehead. The unicorn originated from artworks in the early Mesopotamia and from ancient myths in China and India. National Unicorn Day occurs every year on April 9th, so have some nice holidays to look forward to.
That's right. So how do you celebrate National Unicorn Day?
Well, I was just thinking, in high school, my friends and I used to go into the local Dairy Queen a lot, and they would give you a little receipt with when they ripped off your order. It was a little strip of paper about an inch wide and maybe 3 inches long with your number on it, right? Well, we made what we called unicorn dogs to chase unicorns out of the Dairy Queen. It was a really nice little culture art form back in the day. So, I think that's how one way you could celebrate it is by making a unicorn dog out of your little strip of paper.
Okay, wait.
Queen.
Wait. What is a unicorn dog?
It chases away unicorns.
How much origami did you have to do?
Not a whole lot. I'll make one for you, and we can take a picture of it and put it on the website.
And it has, it looks like a unicorn dog, or is that just
like
what you
dog.
call? Okay.
Well, April Fool's Day, according to Mental Floss, the origins of April Fool's Day is unclear. Some claim it dates back to Roman times. Others say it originated in Renaissance France. But for whatever reason, the practice of fooling people on April 1st has been around for centuries. Some early pranks noted in France were to send someone on a, quote, fool's errand, quite literally. For example, master painters might send a novice looking for a can of striped paint. There's a good trick right there. Or maybe a bucket of steam, or perhaps even a jar of elbow grease.
Yeah, we do that all the time.
Right.
We did that with our boys all the time.
Snipe hunting?
Snipe hunting,
right.
I think that fits right in there. I had a relative who was a construction contractor, my mother's cousin, and he was also quite a prankster. He's a very good magician as well. He was always doing magic tricks at our holiday parties. But anyway, he liked to send a worker to plug in a long extension cord in order to hook up a light. However, he had secretly palmed a battery-operated light bulb. Before the worker could reach the plug, he would hold up the light bulb and say, "Okay, that's good." The worker would stare in confusion at the not yet connected plug he was holding in his hand, wondering how in the world that light was glowing. Those construction workers, they love to play pranks. One of the earliest recorded pranksters was the teenage Roman emperor. Okay, I'm going to say his name wrong. Elagabalus, Elagabalus. Elagabalus, yeah.
Okay.
And not surprisingly, he was also one of Rome's worst emperors as well.
It was because of his name.
The Men of Loss article quoted a book by Warwick Ball, which stated that Elagabalus loved to have his pompous guests sit on whoopee cushions. Now, how would you have a second century whoopee cushion? I'm not sure. What would they make them out of back in the day?
Big bladder or something.
Yeah, bound to be
I didn't know whoopee cushions went dated back that far.
Yeah, I know. Well, it was probably something to do with a bladder, I'll bet.
But farts are always funny, even in history.
Exactly. You've raised a lot of boys, haven't you?
Right.
He also thought it was fun to release snakes in public places. This is the emperor, by the way.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And, well, he was a teenager, though. He was 14 when he became emperor. So
oh, yeah. Well, then the joke's on everyone else.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, and he also liked to slip his pet lion into the bedroom of his drunken guests.
Okay.
Get your attention.
If I had a pet lion, I would do the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. His reign lasted only 4 years, from 218 to 222 A.D., when at the age of 18, he was assassinated by his guards. Not just one guard, all of the guards turned on him.
And I'm thinking, that's not really a surprise, right?
I'm surprised they didn't let the lion in on him.
Right, for sure. Nowadays, we hear the term fake news bandied about by politicians and journalists. However, a fake newspaper called the English Mercury, and that's spelled Mercurie, beats all contenders hands down. The English Mercury was printed in the 1740s, or rather in 1740, but with the date claiming to be 1588. You see what they did there? They backdated it like 150 years. It was produced by Philip York, a member of Parliament. The paper was gifted to the British Museum, which treated it as legitimate for decades. Phony information in the Mercury spread through cultured centers and universities for years and was taken at face value. Even today, information in the Mercury concerning the Spanish Armada is still often misquoted or quoted by websites and news agencies as being accurate, but it really was not. It never was intended to be accurate.
Yeah, and you can't, once you let that out, you can't pull it back in. Wow.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Well, at the beginning of our show, you might have noticed something a little bit different. Before the intro music,
you think they noticed? I bet they noticed. Yeah, I bet
we
they
played
noticed.
an excerpt
Some scratched their
of
heads.
War of the Worlds, a 1938 broadcast by Orson Welles that is known as one of the greatest American hoaxes of all time. War of the Worlds was originally a 19th century science fiction novel written by H.G. Wells, which is no relation to Orson,
right,
about a Martian invasion of Earth. The radio dramatization written by Casablanca screenwriter Howard Koch was read over the air by Orson Welles on October 30th, so the day before Halloween, 1938. It was not planned as a radio hoax, so they say. In fact, at the beginning of the broadcast, it is clearly announced the Columbia Broadcasting System, and this is a quote, and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the air in War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Clearly,
so at the beginning, it was stated. This is a story. We're just reading a story to you.
That's right. Clearly a dramatic radio show and not a live breaking news broadcast, right? But unfortunately, not everyone heard that part.
If you tuned in the middle.
A quote from History.com says, Sunday evening in 1938 was prime time in the golden age of radio. And millions of Americans had their radios turned on, but most of the Americans were listening to ventriloquist Edgar Bergen and his dummy Charlie McCarthy.
Oh, yeah, I've seen them.
On NBC. They were listening to NBC and only turned to CBS at 8:12 after the comedy sketch ended and a little-known singer came on. So they were channel surfing.
Because there's nothing better than a ventriloquist on the radio.
You know what? I thought that too. I mean, I think he was famous.
We got to see if we can sense his lips moving.
I thought that too. I was like, but anyway. So by the time they switched over, the Martian invasion was well underway, and because they were channel surfing, a lot of people missed the beginning. So the dramatization was played out like a breaking news broadcast. Yes, it was the initial CBS announcement introducing Orson Welles and the novel by H.G. Wells, but then what sounded like a weather report followed by dance music started. Then all of a sudden, an announcer broke in with a fake news report to declare that explosions were being detected on Mars. More dance music, and then another interruption. So it was played just like breaking news.
We interrupt this program.
That's right, in which listeners were informed that a large meteor had crashed into a farmer's field in Grover's Mills, New Jersey. Now, this wasn't done just by Orson Welles. He had more people in on this. There were a lot of actors and everything, and there were sound effects.
People imitating actual reporters.
That's
and
right.
Your reporter on the scene.
So Mercury was kind of an advertising. Well, they were also
theater.
radio
It was a
theater.
theater. Right, that's right. And so soon, a reporter at the quote-unquote crash site described Martians emerging from a metallic cylinder. And then the mesmerizing voice of Orson Welles described in great detail an alien attack, complete with ray guns, the annihilation of National Guardsmen, poisonous gas, more Martian landings in other cities, and a full-out war on the Earth. And
I can remember my grandmother telling me that a friend of hers called her and told her,
turn on your radio, right?
There's a Martian attack.
Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of makes me think back to how we reacted to 9/11.
Right.
So an announcement was made that widespread panic had broken out in the vicinity of the landing sites. This is for real, with thousands desperately trying to flee. The radio show was extremely realistic, complete with sound effects and, of course, other actors portraying terrified announcers and other characters. So for the rest of the hour, terror crackled over the airwaves and fear spread like wildfire across the nation as Americans in their homes huddled around their radios. So,
radio was still pretty new at this time.
Right, and it was the advent
Maybe
of home entertainment, and that's what people did.
So it was easy to get taken in by this.
Very drawn in.
Think about, before you judge that generation too harshly, think about, have you ever been fooled by an internet hoax,
Right. And I'm going to get into that a little bit of where Americans were at that time to be pulled into this. But to quote history.com, human germs rather than human armies ultimately did in the mythical Martian invaders. And at the end of the hour, the director wrapped up the radio drama by telling his audience, "This is Orson Welles, ladies and gentlemen, out of character to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance than as a holiday offering as it was intended to be. The Mercury Theater's own radio version of dressing up in a sheet and jumping out of a bush and saying boo." So they were told again.
Yeah, at the end, this was not real. It didn't really happen.
And there was a reminder at the intermission, but the anxiety induced by the broadcast confused listeners, and many believed it to be all too real. Police departments, newspapers, and CBS itself were all just inundated with calls.
They should have had the Martians jump out of a Mercury, So imagine the irony. They show up in a Mercury.
I'm not thinking that would have had the same effect, but
you would have had them all go, "Get back in there and get on."
Okay. So, History.com says, in New Jersey, ground zero for the fictitious invasion, National Guardsmen wanted to know where they should report for duty. The Trenton Police Department fielded 2,000 calls in under 2 hours. In Providence, Rhode Island, hysterical callers begged the electric company to cut power to the city to keep it safe from the extraterrestrial invaders.
If you can't see them, you can't get to them.
That's right. That's over here.
Right.
Blackout.
That's right. So before you judge too harshly, remember that the 1930s, that was a rough time for Americans.
Right.
With the Great Depression, the imminent threat of another great war as World War II was on the brink of breaking out, and plus the Hindenburg disaster, and I think there was a major hurricane in that area. All of that was fresh in the hearts of Americans. Newspapers, listen to this. Talk about fake news. Newspapers who at the time felt threatened by the emergence of radio as an informational and advertising medium took the opportunity to strike back at its rival. There were sensational stories printed about suicide attempts because of the broadcast, heart attacks, mass hysteria.
So, folks, trust your newspaper, not that newfangled radio.
Right. Trust us. We'll inform you.
We've got you back, really.
Quoting again from History.com, with threats of lawsuits swirling in the press, CBS went into damage control. Oh. At a hastily called press conference, a doe-eyed Orson Welles displayed his theatrical acumen and expressed his remorse and his shock at public reaction. I can't imagine an invasion from Mars, he said, would find ready acceptance. That's what he said when he was asked point blank if he had pranked the country. Decades later, however, Wells admitted, the kind of response was merrily anticipated by us all.
Oh, so they were kind of agitating it.
He said the size of it, of course, was flabbergasting.
That's a great
word.
word.
So they knew what they were doing. They just didn't realize how big it was going to be. The Federal Communications Commission did not sanction CBS or Wells, and the radio dramatist quickly spun his Halloween trick into a treat. Thanks to what became known as the Panic broadcast, the radio program signed Campbell's Soup as a sponsor, so apparently Campbell's Soup was a big sponsor. Mm-hmm. And soon after, Wells landed a deal to direct Citizen Kane, named by the American Film Institute as the greatest movie of all time. So he came out smelling like a rose.
He sure did. Yeah, he did. And, there were a lot of movies in the time right after that played on this theme in the late 40s, early 50s, about men from Mars landing and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Now for today's bookshop spot, the part of the show where we take you on a virtual tour of one of the most magical of places, an independent bookshop.
What I love, Steve, about doing these bookshop spots is how unique each bookstore is.
Yeah,
they all have such distinct personalities that you don't get when ordering books from Amazon or even walking into a Barnes & Noble.
Correct.
Today's featured bookshop is one of those unique, or one of the most unique, it is the Plains Trading Company.
The Plains Trading Company at 269 North Main Street in Valentine, Nebraska. Right in the middle of the country.
And yeah, and I think it's because it's called the Plains Trading Company rather than a bookstore because it started out a little bit differently than a lot of our bookstores.
Maybe like a general store or something?
Well, co-owner Darlene Meyer says that the store opened as one member of a 5-member retail co-op in 1992.
Okay.
As co-op membership dropped off, they filled the empty spaces with more of their own stock and have been the sole proprietors for about 25 years. So they've been around for quite some time. They offer bulk coffee, beans are ground, Nebraska wine from several wineries, a wide selection of teas, toys from many different manufacturers, regional art, and elementary teaching supplies. Now, the store doesn't offer many events because the town they're located in, Valentine, only has a population of about 2,600 in a very sparsely populated county. But the area is rich in culture and history surrounding the Lakota Native American people.
Oh, great.
The Plains Trading Company offers books of all kinds, but specializes in that culture and the history of both the Lakota and the white settlers and cowboys of the area.
Nice.
So if you just peruse their website, it is so rich in that local culture. Natural history and children's books are also a large and important sections of the store. So their website is www.plains, that's Plains.
As in being out on the plains.
That's right, trading.com. And you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice. And looking where Valentine is on the map, it's almost in South Dakota. So they are right in that Lakota Sioux reservation
right in the
area.
middle of the territory. That's right.
Really, really interesting looking place. I think we need a road trip to these bookstores, don't you think?
I think that's right. We just load up and go from bookshop to bookshop to bookshop. That would be an amazing
That'd be a fun
trip.
family adventure.
There you go. Some of the biggest pranksters in history involve some people that you know, big names. Now, occasionally pranks don't always go off as expected, though. You know, have you ever had it sound like a good idea and it just didn't work out? Well, Samuel Clemens, as we also have known him as Mark Twain, he was a reporter for the Virginia City, Nevada newspaper. He thought he'd have a little fun by writing an article claiming that a petrified man had been found in the area. According to Twain's article, the man was sitting down, thumbing his nose.
Right.
Now, Twain thought that would be a dead giveaway to the spoof, but to his surprise, everyone in town took him seriously and thought it was for real. You know?
That's awesome.
So there's your newspaper. You know, they did spoofs too.
Yes.
And then sometimes pranks can go wrong and get out of hand. Abraham Lincoln was staying in a hotel in Illinois when he noticed a couple of kids playing with an inflated pig bladder. Now, that doesn't make you laugh right there, I don't know what will.
So was it a whoopee cushion?
Maybe that was where the whoopee cushion came from, yeah. Not just a pig bladder, but an inflated pig bladder. Anyway, Lincoln told the youths that the proper way to play with a pig bladder was to heat it up. Now, my mind always goes back to the old Looney Tunes great cartoon character, Foghorn Leghorn. Oh. Now, boy, that ain't no way to play with a pig bladder. I may show you how to play with a pig bladder. And so they put it in the hotel's fireplace. Well, soon the bladder exploded and sent fiery hot coals and cinders flying throughout the dining room of the hotel. Lincoln grabbed a broom and began sweeping up the mess when the broom itself caught on fire in his hands. So I don't know if he was invited back to that hotel or not.
That's great.
And then sometimes Franks can go unexpectedly positive. Did I say Franks? Pranks.
Yeah. Franks can go unexpectedly.
Well, Franks can go positively too, but we're talking about pranks, dude. I think we have another episode for Franks. But anyway, sometimes pranks can go unexpectedly positive. As a joke, French-American artist Marcel Duchamp entered a urinal into an art exhibit in 1917. It was like one of these modern art things, Well, the joke ended up being on him because the fountain, as he called it, ended up becoming one of his most famous works, not to mention an icon of 20th century art. I think it won first place in the art competition.
Oh, my goodness.
I always kind of wanted my school to name a urinal after me. I don't know if that would be fun.
I think Phil and I will donate money for that.
Right?
Then there was the unexpected pranksters. The great scientist and discoverer of radium, Madame Marie Curie. Now, you don't really think of her as a prankster, do you? But one time, she nailed a relative's shoes and furniture to the ceiling of their house.
That's commitment.
That's a good trick right there.
That's a talent, for sure.
And then, of course, there's Leonardo da Vinci. Once attached leather wings onto a lizard, carried it around in his pocket, and told people that it was a miniature dragon.
Oh, no, I want to do that.
Yeah, that's a good trick.
I love Da Vinci.
And then, of course, what school principal hasn't ever wondered, what kind of person are you going to become when you explode a toilet? Well, John F. Kennedy, as a teenager, once threw a firecracker in a toilet at his school, and he blew the lid off. And
that doesn't really surprise me, honestly.
Well, he's going to the top.
There you go.
So I love this next story. We live and record in Texas.
The greater cut and shoot area.
That's right.
That's right. And so in Texas, football is kind of important. It's
it's a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
A big deal. We take our football seriously.
And so
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those Friday night lights shine over stadiums in big cities and small towns throughout the Lone Star State. One epic prank, and I love this one, involving a college marching band and an opponent's football field brought a different kind of shine. In 1999, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs were playing the Texas Christian University Horned Frogs at their home stadium. At the Mustangs' home stadium.
No, the Horned Frogs' home stadium.
Oh, the Horn. Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. During the halftime show, the SMU Mustang marching band completed their performance by forming their famous Diamond M on the TCU natural grass field. I can't talk. Before breaking formation, however, each band member, and I raised a band member, I can see band kids doing this. Each band member reached into their uniform pocket and pulled out a handful of winter rye grass seed and just discreetly dropped it onto the field.
Oh.
A couple of weeks after the game,
no.
TCU officials noticed a strange new grass formation growing on their field in the shape of the diamond. And we have a picture of this.
Yes.
Oh, we got you
on the
for
website or on our Facebook page.
Hey, guys, deny this.
Yeah. That's one of the best pranks involving colleges that I've heard.
I haven't thought about that. You really can't get away with that. Like, they're going to know who did that.
Yeah, right.
And they're going to know which children were out there. High school or college kids. They're children to me. Yeah. College kids out there, you're going to know exactly who. And
SMU and TCU are natural rivals as well, because SMU's in Dallas, TCU's in Fort Worth, and so those two cities are rivals, and so the colleges have longtime rivals as well. So that was a good prank on that rivalry.
It was a very good prank.
Yeah. Now you kind of want to know what the Horned Frogs did.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't think you could top that. But I think the SMU had not a natural grass field. It was some kind of a turf field. Yeah. Well, my wife and I were in London in the summer of 2019, and we really enjoyed our time there, but we were kind of disappointed that Big Ben, the giant bell and the clock in Elizabeth's Tower, right attached to the Parliament building, wasn't working during the time we were there because it was under renovation. It had scaffolding covering up the whole thing.
I'm glad that you pointed that out because everybody thinks that whole building is called Big Ben.
Right. It's just the bell up inside. The building's actually named after Queen Elizabeth, Elizabeth's Tower. But the bell inside is huge, and it can be heard all over the city, and the bell is called Big Ben. Well, anyway, the tower was being renovated. It had scaffolding on it, and so we weren't able to see it or hear Big Ben. But back in 1980, a BBC News announcer reported that the famous clock was going to be given a digital face. Now, you remember in the late 70s, early 80s,
that would make some people
digital watches were brand new. They'd just come out. And, remember my friend had one. The first one, you had to push a little button and had little red letters,
right.
red numbers coming up on it. So digital watches were all the rage back then. He further stated that the clock's now useless giant hands will be given away to the first 4 people who phoned the station. Most people realized it was a joke, but a few eager folks did call in hoping to claim the clock's hands.
Hey, I would have called, right. Just on the off chance that
What's
it wasn't.
What's that great big thing on your wall? It was one of Big Ben's hands. Get out of town. Now, I can remember, I'm old enough to remember having a black and white TV growing up. You guys are younger than me, so you may not remember that. But
yeah, our worst TV, you just had to get up and cross the room to change a channel.
Well, we had a black and white, and when I was in 3rd grade, though, this was in 1966, my big brother Dickie won a color TV at a local carnival. It made me an instant celebrity because everybody came to our house to watch Batman in color.
Oh.
It was one of the first color TVs in our town, and I know it was definitely the first color TV on our end of town, which wasn't particularly affluent. Well, in Sweden in 1961, a Swedish newscast told viewers that they could in fact turn a black and white set into a color TV.
Oh, no.
If only they used the proper materials. A serious-looking technician explained that if Swedes would pull a nylon stocking over their set, that the light would be filtered in such a way
awesome.
that they could see the image in color. He also recommended that viewers move their heads from side to side for the best results. So throughout the country, Swedes were seen bobbing their heads back and forth as they tried to view the image on their stockinged screen.
Wow.
Those are some big stockings and some tiny TVs. I'm just saying.
I guess so. I maybe really stretched it out there. And a final TV news prank takes us back to the BBC, those funny British people, the year 1957, when viewers were told that mild weather in the Italian Alps had produced a bumper crop of spaghetti from its native spaghetti trees. Film was shown of Italians harvesting noodles from the trees. Several people phoned into the station to ask how they could grow their own spaghetti tree. They were instructed to plant a spaghetti noodle in a can of tomato sauce and hope for the best.
So was that angel hair pasta, or did they have to strain that later?
It's different. That's different. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. It wasn't like
different varieties of the tree. I think you have to.
Yeah.
I think you have to graft it for angel hair.
Right.
Sometimes corporations try to get in on the prank act. In 1996, Taco Bell. Oh, I love Mexican pizza. Yeah. Taco Bell announced that it had purchased the Liberty Bell. The Taco Bell, or the early Taco Bell stores, used to have a big bell hanging up in the top of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I might remember this.
Right. Well, anyway, they took out ads in several large newspapers stating that the Taco Bell Corporation was patriotically helping out with the national debt by sponsoring the Liberty Bell. The ad stated that the Liberty Bell would now split its time between Philadelphia and the corporate headquarters in Irvine, California.
Oh.
Immediately, people began calling the National Park Service and Taco Bell to complain. Subsequently, Taco Bell issued another press release stating that it had all been a hoax, but that they were, in fact, donating $50,000 to go toward the Liberty Bell's upkeep.
Oh, so that was good. And that, I think you can file that under bad press is good press.
Right.
All press.
I think,
right. All press is good press.
I think that was very well orchestrated.
Now, here's an article that comes to us from History.com and also Londonist.com. In 1749, an advertisement in a London newspaper announced that an amazing performance would take place in London's new theater in the Haymarket district, in which the performer would borrow walking sticks from audience members and turn them into every musical instrument imaginable. After this, he would completely insert himself into an ordinary bottle of wine and sing a melody.
There's a clue for you.
This was about the same time that newspaper came out from the previous 150 years. People fell for it then, too. The theater was completely sold out with standing room only. However, after a long wait with no performer appearing, the crowd rioted and tore the theater apart.
They were a little ticked off.
Legend has it that the ad was the result of a bet between a duke and an earl. Those dukes and earls, when they get up, duke.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway,
oh, wow.
When they get together, crazy things happen. Evidently, the duke stated that he could advertise something completely impossible and still find enough fools to fill a playhouse in London. And evidently he was.
Standing room only.
I think that still applies today.
And now for something completely off topic and off kilter. Brace yourself for the oddity du jour.
Okay, San Francisco brick rings. San Francisco has these seemingly random brick rings in a lot of their intersections. There are more than 170 of these mysterious circles placed all over the city, and they're pretty big. They're about 32 feet in diameter. Visitors to the city, as well as a whole lot of natives, are stumped by what they could be. Well, they date back to the mid-1800s, and I have a picture of this on our website.
The San Francisco brick rings.
That's hard to say. Brick rings. So back to the mid-1800s is when San Francisco experienced a population boom and fires became an imminent threat. There was no way at that time to lay out water mains and pipes, so city officials decided to build 16 underground cisterns. The first was located in Portsmouth Square and held 12,000 gallons of water.
That's a good idea.
In 1906, a massive earthquake shook the city for a full minute, causing incredible damage. Yeah. Most of the damage, however, wasn't directly from the earthquake itself, but from the fires that raged afterward. The quake had broken a lot of the city's water pipes, but the old cisterns, those old, however many it was, what was 16? It? 16, yeah. 16. They remained intact, and they were used to battle the fires and save several San Francisco neighborhoods. So city leaders, they clued into the fact that this might be a good thing.
We actually had a good idea.
And over the years, they repaired and built many more cisterns throughout the city, and the brick circles are a way of showing firefighters exactly where they can be found.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
nice.
So right under the street. So speaking of fighting fires, though, nearly all fire departments throughout the country switched from wooden ladders to metal ladders decades ago, and that makes sense. Metal tends to be lighter and, of course, doesn't catch fire like wood does. But San Francisco, they have to be different. Their fire department still uses wooden ladders. In fact, they have their own ladder-making shop that craft highly engineered wooden ladders that are strong, sturdy, and flame-resistant, and they also repair the ladders.
Okay.
But why would San Francisco Fire Department not make the change to metal ladders? Well, because of the electrified trolley lines running through the city.
Oh, yeah, you don't want that.
Those other ones up,
you don't want that coming in contact.
You're cooked in a different way.
That's right.
Oh, that's that was our great oddity du jour today. Du jour. Well, now back to our April Fool's stories. Now, there's a fellow named Richard Branson. You might have heard that name before. He's the billionaire founder of the Virgin Atlantic Airlines, and he's a well-known lover of April Fool's Day. But back in 1989, his annual prank came a day early on March 31st. That evening, residents outside of London spotted a flying saucer that appeared to land in a field in Surrey. Police officers went to the field to investigate the supposed UFO and were probably surprised when they actually found one there, especially when a door opened and a silver-clad figure walked out.
Why do aliens love silver?
I don't know.
They're always wearing
silver.
Were
those Martians wearing
right?
silver?
Did they not invent paint?
I don't know. Richard Branson was hiding out inside the UFO and behind the silver-clad companion, whose name was Don Cameron. The two of them had taken off in the flying saucer, which was actually a hot air balloon, and they planned to land in Hyde Park in London on April 1st as a prank. However, Changing winds forced them to land a little early in Surrey. Didn't quite make it all the way. Now, another prank. On April 1st, 1978, residents of Sydney, Australia awoke to find a gigantic floating iceberg in Sydney Harbor.
Oh, okay. That's
it'd be, they're pretty far away from where the icebergs would be, so that would be unusual. But several days before the prank, electronics entrepreneur Dick Smith announced that an iceberg he had towed from Antarctica would be arriving in Sydney the following week. He thought to give the exact date, though, would be a real tip-off. So just said in the week. He left it kind of vague. And sure enough, there it was. People thronged to the harbor area to view it. That is, until a rainstorm revealed the iceberg for what it truly was, a barge covered in sheets of white plastic and firefighting foam.
Yeah.
We have a picture of that also. And this was from pranksters.com. You know, one of my favorite Americans is Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, mine too. I'm a huge fan.
Right. Very interesting fellow. In the days before Benjamin Franklin went on to become a famous U.S. statesman, he used to be a female impersonator. Well,
Can
not
we
exactly like you're
let's
thinking.
take a moment and picture that,
there.
right?
Not exactly like you're imagining. You see, he wrote for a newspaper called the New England Courant, which was owned by his brother. His brother wouldn't let Franklin publish letters himself, so he decided to write letters to the newspaper impersonating a widow named Silence Dogood. Franklin wrote 14 letters in total, which became so popular with readers, marriage proposals were sent to the paper. Franklin soon became bored with his ruse and owned up to his brother, breaking many 18th century men's hearts.
I think his brother was very put out.
Yeah,
too.
he was.
Yeah, he was a little mad.
And it was in Boston, I think. So after that, he left and went to Philadelphia on his own.
Okay, so our last guy, Horace DeVere Cole, he's known as the greatest prankster of the 20th century.
Well, we'll be the judge of that.
So via an article in thevintagenews.com by Samantha Flom, Horace DeVere Cole was an Irishman born in County Cork, Ireland in 1881. He came from a well-to-do family, attended Eton College in Cambridge, was a veteran of the Second Boer War, and yet was best known for being an incredible prankster. That's
a pretty impressive resume right there. First of all.
Right.
Exactly.
So you would think that he would rise and
Right.
be somebody of substance, but not
this
so
is
much.
substance.
Yeah.
It's substance, all right. Okay, so the prime minister at the time was Ramsay MacDonald, and he hated Horace. The reason was because the two looked very much alike, and Horace would use that to his advantage by breaking into long, politically charged and controversial tirades in public, thus creating many scandals for the prime minister to deal with.
So you've got a doppelganger out there saying all kind of wild things.
It's not me.
And so while he was attending Cambridge, this is funny, the uncle to the Sultan of Zanzibar made a trip to England. Horace or Cole capitalized on this as an opportunity to pull off a prank and have the royal uncle make a surprise visit to Cambridge. According to the St. James Gazette, the mayor of Cambridge received a telegram from Cole reading, "The Sultan of Zanzibar will arrive today at Cambridge at 4:27 for a short visit. Could you arrange to show him buildings of interest and send carriage? Henry Lucas Hotel, Cecil, London." So, of course, no one of royalty shows up alone, so they have an entourage.
Right.
Cole pulled together some friends and spared no expense at dressing them up in robes, turbans, beards, and heavy makeup. They were given a tour. They were given a tour of the university by
So
the
they showed
mayor.
up at Cambridge.
Right, by the mayor and a town clerk. And
See,
so
Oxford, right? That's what
friends, he goes to school there. Like, they're
Yeah.
passing friends, and I think all of his friends that were on his entourage went to school there as well. Nobody recognized them.
They're in they're
Yeah,
clothing
they're
and
in,
turbans.
True.
hello.
They're pretty.
They were well
they're pretty
disguised.
Would
good.
never accept it.
Cole gave an interview about the hoax to a local newspaper. When the newspaper was printed the next day and the university administration found out that they'd been had, they were almost expelled. They weren't expelled, but they came very close.
Your tuition next semester just quadrupled.
And so because he wasn't expelled or whatever, he decided to do a bigger thing.
Oh, no.
So in a similar caper, this one in 1910, and the prank he's most known for, Cole succeeded in tricking the captain of the HMS Dreadnought, a state-of-the-art battleship that he and his entourage, which incidentally at this time included the famous author Virginia Woolf, were a delegation on official business from Zanzibar.
Right.
So the fake Abyssinians, I'm sorry, how do we say that? Abyssinians spoke a mix of Greek and Latin gibberish. Exclaiming bunga bunga.
Bunga bunga.
For delight.
Oh, bunga bunga.
Bunga bunga. During their tour of the ship, they bestowed, obviously fake, military honors on many of the ship's officers. And after it came out that it was all a hoax, Cole couldn't be charged with anything because he hadn't broken any laws. So again,
it's not a law to fool the Navy? Not against the law to fool the Navy?
I guess not.
There's nothing on the books to start it.
So he just keeps getting worse and worse because, he's getting all of this affirmation and everything. So another notable prank includes the time Cole bought out several seats for a theatrical performance that he considered to be pretentious. The seats he bought were filled with bald men with letters painted on their heads.
Of course.
So that when viewed from behind, a certain curse word was spelled out. The audience thought it was hilarious, and the actors not so much, because they didn't know what was going on. They didn't know what all the laughter was about.
Why are people laughing?
So I'm not going to mention the exact word here because we really don't know.
We're a family show here.
Well, and we don't know. I mean, I would allude to what the word was, but the word varies from story to story. Some say it was the word bollocks. Others say it was a certain four-letter word. And I'm just going to say that if it was a four-letter word, it would mean a lot less tickets to buy.
Right.
And fewer hair-challenged men to coordinate. Another
you have
childish
to get in
prank.
this correct seat.
Okay, so this one, okay. Another childish prank Cole was known for was to have a cow udder protruding from the fly of his pants.
Uh-oh.
And when satisfied that plenty of other people have noticed, he would feign embarrassment and then produce a pair of scissors and snip it off. Oh, my goodness. He was quite a guy.
Yeah.
So, one more prank.
Okay.
One more prank. And I think it really illustrates Horace DeVere Cole's commitment to mischief. On April Fool's Day of 1919, Cole was on his honeymoon. He was on his honeymoon in Venice.
Uh-huh.
He dropped...
Not for long.
He dropped a pile of horse manure in the city square, a city that could only be reached by boat.
So how did the horse get there?
Yeah, so it had no horses to speak of. So there's no record of how officials or townspeople reacted to this, but we do know that his marriage only lasted 10 years before ending in divorce. And can you imagine?
That's not too surprising.
Like, he's packing. Like, did he pack it in a suitcase?
Yeah.
Like,
Ziploc baggies weren't there yet.
and then carrying it around in, like, his pockets? I don't know. But I'm thinking I would not be happy with that if that was
a little over the edge.
my husband or whatever.
But in spite of the fact, Horace DeVere Cole, we salute you.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you're no longer alive. Like, I'm glad that was back then.
And now it's time, boys and girls, for the Trivia Challenge.
Well, for today's Trivia Challenge, now you know the rules. Like and follow our Facebook page at Remnant Stew Podcast. Like and share this episode post. Put your answer to the Trivia Challenge question in the comments of that post. The first person to do all that will be the winner. And we'll have one whoopee cushion. No, I'm sorry. We don't actually have a whoopee cushion.
We might. I don't know.
We should manufacture some Remnant Stew whoopee cushions.
Speaking of whoopee cushions, one year, okay, so I had 3 boys. One year, they each got self-inflating whoopee cushions. Have you seen those? It's like filled with a sponge.
Up to date.
And we were videotaping the day, and after about 15 minutes of straight farting, we just turned the camera off. Like, they got all kinds of other stuff, but these whoopee cushions were the big deal.
Yeah, I've got a lot of grandsons that are kind of the
same way. It's always funny.
It's always funny. That's true.
Well, anyway, the first person to do all that will be the winner and will be mentioned in the next episode of Remnant Stew. So what's our question today, Leah?
Okay, I tried to make this pretty hard. In 2008, a university professor created an extremely well-done documentary that turned out to be a hoax. What tipped people off? Well, the fact that the creator's name, including the title of professor spelled out as P-R-O-F, was an anagram of the day that the film was released, April Fool's Day. Uh-huh. Give me the name of the fictitious professor, the famous comedian that hosted the film, and what the hoax was about.
Good luck, Harbin.
Great question.
Remnant Stew is created by me, Leah Lamp. Dr. Judy Meeker and I research, write, and host each episode. Judy Meeker helps a lot with research as well.
Hey, Judy.
Audio is produced by Philip Sinquefield.
Hey, Phil.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Our theme music is by Kevin MacLeod with voiceover by Morgan Hughes. You can connect with us through our Facebook and Instagram or through our email at staycurious@remnantstew.com. Listen, tell us all about the awesome pranks that you or your friends have pulled off, or tell us about a topic that you'd like to hear us cover in an upcoming episode, or just say hi. We love to hear from you.
Now, before you go, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss an episode. Please take the time to give us a review on iTunes. There's a convenient link on our website to make it easy for you. Share Remnant Stew with your friends, family, deep dish pizza delivery guy, unicorn trainer, baker, and candlestick maker. And until next time, please remember to be kind and always stay curious.
This is Orson Welles, ladies and gentlemen, out of character, to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance than as the holiday offering it was intended to be. The Mercury Theater's own radio version of dressing up in a sheet and jumping out of a bush and saying boo. Starting now, we couldn't soap all your windows and steal all your garden gates by tomorrow night, so we did the best next thing. We annihilated the world before your very ears and utterly destroyed the CBS. You will be relieved, I hope, to learn that we didn't mean it, and that both institutions are still open for business. So goodbye, everybody, and remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight. That grinning, glowing, globular invader of your living room is an inhabitant of the pumpkin patch, and if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian, it's Halloween.